Jordan, thanks so much for joining me today. Really excited to have you on. Know you've been busy. You got a lot of fun things to share. But if you would, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Jordan Miller. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Went to SMU 10 through 14, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Yendo.
So you touch on a lot of the components we kind of hit on in one person here at SMU Stories, from a student athlete to a founder, and then someone who also has a graduate degree from SMU, right? So it's going to be fun to kind of go through all the sides of the school that you see. But let's start kind of at the beginning. You played football for SMU, but what was kind of your origin story? How'd you find the school? Was it all through recruitment, and what'd you know, if that was the case, about SMU before you stepped on campus?
Yeah, I mean SMU. Like I'm from Atlanta. Like SMU didn't really recruit. Where I was
Mhm.
going to school, and I was pretty steadfast on going to Georgia Tech.
Right.
Atlanta. That's kind of where everybody went for my high school. But a friend of a friend, a family friend said, "Hey, you got to go look at SMU in Dallas." I think this was they had just won the Hawaii Bowl, um, and so came down, and they were just the most welcoming people ever. Kevin Knox spent like 4 hours with me
Really?
on my tour, yeah, and they were like, "Hey, we don't have any scholarships left, but if you want to come, like you've got a spot." And so I came as a walk-on originally, and then earned the scholarship, and by far the best decision I've made, like,
That's
to date,
amazing.
by far.
That's a good bet on yourself, right? Knowing you liked the school enough that you were willing to go there as the walk on, and then, like you said, you probably knew you had the talent and the skill set. What was 18-year-old Jordan like? Were you business focused, as we'll get into later, or were you football all the way and that was kind of the bigger piece, or were you kind of married both together with SMU?
Yeah, I think like most 18-year-olds, I don't think I really knew. Um, my family is more of a science medicine background, so I didn't really know what I was getting into, but kind of knew that I wanted to get into business, and so stepped into SMU, just kind of trying to figure it out, to be completely honest. You know, was like fortunate enough to get into the business school, study finance, and go down that path. But I think we had coaches that used to say, there's social, academics, and football. You can pick two. Um, and I was pretty good at, picking none of them and kind of wheeling around all of them at the beginning. But yeah, I think just kind of figured it out over time. So.
So was it Cox from the get go once you went through that freshman year? Or did you explore other parts of the university as potential degrees, or how hard is it to kind of balance the school approach and kind of understanding what you want to do long term versus the obligations that the football team and sports have, and kind of giving yourself enough rope to kind of make a choice or try things?
Yeah, I think athletics and the demand that has just totally changes your ability to explore, to be completely honest. So I think I knew, like, look, Cox was a great school, and I had the opportunity to kind of go that path. And so I immediately kind of just locked into that, and I don't really have time to go try anything else.
Right.
I think looking back, like, I'm happy I made that decision, but yeah, you're pretty strapped. So you kind of just say, "Hey, I hope I made the right choice," and run.
Right.
So,
So
so.
we'll pause. I mean, SMU football is kind of the talk of the town these last 24 months, right? How exciting has it been for you to see that notoriety grow, and that kind of brotherhood probably expand, and with your class and your teammates? What are some of your highlights of your 4 years playing there, and then touch on a little bit of what it means to see them in the ACC and really uh, boom
Yeah,
into the next, you know 5-10 years here.
yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Like, was I flew up to Happy Valley, went to the Penn State game, did the whole deal. I think it's crazy how far it's, like, transformed itself
Right.
so quickly. I mean, my last year was the 1-11 year, when Coach Jones left and
Yeah.
Coach Mason came in, so probably left it at its rock bottom. Um, but no, it's been pretty awesome. I think, when I was there, we went to three bowl games, won two of them, so I think had a great experience, especially, given where we were. But never really could kind of make it over the hump where I think we all wanted to be.
Right.
Um, but it really was, we were starting to kind of see that resurgence. I mean, there was spark, like, hints of it here and there, and you could see that like there was potential.
Mhm.
Um, but really, I think these last couple of years getting the ACC and running, it's totally unleashed. And so now, coaches can stay and not worry about getting picked off for Power Five. And it's just now there's nothing kind of in our way except ourselves, I feel.
Mhm.
And we're proving that that's the way to go. So it's
Totally.
been amazing. Um, I'm super excited for everything that's going on.
Are you still involved with the program? Are you able to mentor or meet some of these kids and kind of, I guess, leading to the next question as whether you are, I know your time's limited. What advice do you have for those student athletes today, whether football or not, who won't go play pro and how they should be managing their time or thinking about using the SMU network for their benefit?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty involved on the Cox side. There's like the Spears
Okay.
Entrepreneurship Center, so I do a lot in that. I've been to some of the live after ball stuff. Some guys I work with are super involved in that. Um, for the guys that aren't going to go pro, which is the vast majority of
Mhm.
them, I don't waste the opportunity in front of you. I think SMU has the most incredible network, but college is what you make of it. And I think I didn't figure that out until probably junior, senior year. But once you really kind of use SMU for what it is, which is the networking powerhouse, it's obviously a great school and it's, at its core, but the network and sense of community that comes out of SMU is really second to none, especially in business, I think. And so I would really push the athletes to use their position to open those doors. I mean, call it for what it is. If you're an athlete, you can usually get the call back,
Definitely.
especially for people that are into the program, especially now with the notoriety that they're getting. Go take it. I mean, work like most won't, so you can live like most can't. I think is kind of the motto that I think you have to be a successful athlete in general, but recognizing early that that chapter will likely end, and then working towards the next chapter before it kind of hits you all of a sudden
Right.
is super important. And I think unfortunately a lot of people don't, well, that doesn't click until it's kind of too late. So I think really realizing what you have in front of you and grasping it early on is probably the biggest advice I could give to any athlete.
No, that's great. So back to you. A successful, career at SMU, right? Winning 2 bowl games at that time is unheard of, right? So it's awesome you could do that. You mentioned taking a leap and saying, "Cox, you knew the reputation. I'm gonna go that route." Turned out to be a good one. How did you kind of then say, like you said, maybe junior, senior year, you realized, hey, use these resources that are in front of you. Kind of, where did you go? Walk us through kind of the end of the career and into getting your finance masters and then into the professional world.
Yeah. So, I kind of I had a wake up call one day. It was like, hey, I got to really start figuring this out. So used a connection and got an internship after my junior year. Uh, in banking and did that and hated it. And and just kind of said like, hey, like, this isn't really for me. I don't think. And so, but got great experience and kind of learned that, really valuable lesson. Did a couple IB super days, the investment banking stuff, and really just it was just not for me. And so,
And so, what
um,
what even drew you to think that those are the internships? Is it the competitive kind of football spirit of like, you're a grinder, you can work hard, and this is kind of an elite job to get that you wanted to put your hat in that ring?
yeah, the latter for sure. I just knew that like that is what everybody was going for, so I tried to go that route. Um, And just once I got into the world, I was like, just doesn't feel like me. Um,
Were there
and
many of your
so,
peers in SME athletics trying to get jobs in investment banking?
yeah, I think anybody that was in the finance program at SMU like wants to go that route. I think SMU kind of really guides you into that or consulting.
Mhm.
Um, and some did. But it's definitely a difficult path to get into, to kind of go down. And I
Yeah.
think I was a lot more entrepreneurial than that kind of guided. I think
Uh-huh.
I viewed it as a way to make a great income and, not guaranteed, but pretty safe once you got in.
Yeah.
But it was a long grind to make what I thought was kind of the income that I was hoping for. And so
Yep.
I kind of flipped more to the entrepreneurial path pretty early. And so after my senior year before grad school, I didn't do internship. I just started a company on the side, and kind of realized that I can make a lot more money doing that than an investment banking analyst. And
So what was
so
that?
kind of
What was the
caught,
first job in school?
so I started selling, a friend of mine, did it, and he moved away after
Yeah.
graduation and was doing it in a different part of the US. But we were buying like lights for trucks on
Okay.
Alibaba and bringing them in and selling them on Craigslist and stuff like that. And
Incredible.
I think we were paying $100 for them and selling for 1,000.
Whoa.
And it was just, I mean, like it didn't get super far, but it kind of was the first taste. Like,
But it made you some
um,
money in college, right? And kind of saw
yeah, yeah,
how you
yeah,
can,
and
like you say, make the choices and be in charge of kind of your own opportunity, right?
yeah, for sure. And I think it was my first experience, and no one's paying me for my time. I'm kind of, however much effort I put in, I get close to equal out, hopefully,
Right.
or more.
Right. Right.
And so that's kind of when I quickly said, like, I don't want to be in the typical kind of W-2 path and
Right.
kind of grind it out. I want to go the other way.
But you did ultimately take a corporate job upon grad school, right? It sounds like
Yeah,
maybe you were doing a little bit of both at the same time, but understood the net of having a job right out the gate.
yeah. So I met a guy who was kind of spinning up kind of a private equity firm. And he asked if I wanted to come do it with him. Because yeah, starting your own thing is fun, but I think right after school, you're like, hey, it'd be great to make some money. And so
Mhm.
this to me was the closest thing to what I wanted to do. Um, which was super entrepreneurial, kind of looking at different businesses, starting stuff. It was a really small group, so got an amazing experience. And so did that straight out and just
Can you
honestly
can
got
you
really
touch on what
lucky.
you guys were doing? What were you funding startups, building companies from the ground up, or what was kind of the play?
Yeah, uh, building, buying, a lot of a couple of management teams we kind of funded and helped them get off the ground.
Okay.
And really for me, it was, the guy that kind of brought me in was older than me. And so was able to kind of just show me, here's what to look for, and really just kind of teach me. I mean, I will not discredit how lucky of an opportunity that was to be just right there with someone
Right.
writing the checks in a PE kind of scenario.
Mhm.
So really just got exposure to everything, buying, building, what works, what to look out for. And yeah, it was the best foundation I could have asked for.
And so I know that's advice that's hard to just replicate, right? You found a mentor, you found an opportunity that's unique, but I think what of that do you think is replicable to that younger generation? Is it find a mentor? Is it find don't be afraid to knock on a door of a group and like get your hands dirty and say, "Hey, give me a million hats. I want to learn what you guys do and how do I do that?"
Yeah, I think the best advice I could give is this was from SMU Network.
Mhm.
So found that there. Talk to as many people as you can. Don't chase the money. Like I was making way less than I could have at some banking job, but it's the experience paid for itself
Yep.
tenfold. I think don't chase the money, chase the experience earlier in your career. Like be intellectually honest with yourself and say, is this person very smart and successful? Can I learn from them? Can they teach me to do the same thing? And just optimize for that. I think every person coming out of school should go for that rather than, hey, I could make 10% more at
Yeah.
Goldman being investment banking analyst number 640.
Yeah.
I think
I
it'd
That
be,
sounds like a pretty quick shift though from where you were at the start of your journey, right? You were like investment banking, that's the highest paying job at a school. Um, so
yeah,
you fell victim maybe to initially thinking that, but were able to learn uh the hard way, right?
yeah, for sure. After I did that internship that summer and then did a couple super days and I was like, this is just
Yeah.
not where I want to be.
So
The
you
hours I put in, I'm not making anymore. So
so you have this incredible opportunity after grad school. You're boots on the ground to a lot of unique opportunities that I think probably gave you the additional education that leads you to where you are today. What's next? You mentioned kind of founding and selling a couple companies. Can you walk us through Titus and Known? and kind of how that evolved and your skill set grew and kind of what categories you found uh, to have some advantage in.
Yeah, so Titus was actually born out of that PE firm. There was a thesis around industrial distribution and kind of bringing stuff in overseas the same way that I had done it, uh, same way I had done it in college,
Hmm.
through the lights. And so basically, the whole thesis was we would go buy oil and gas equipment overseas and then build inventory management system for our customers so then we control the whole supply chain.
Mm.
And we got up to pretty good size, around 130 people in a few years. I ran the ops there. Wild experience, building that up. It got to a fairly good size.
Yeah.
Um,
Did
and
that
so
involve a lot
did
of
that,
international travel for you? Did you get exposed over there? Were you
yeah, 2 million American Airlines miles a year.
Phew,
So I was doing India or China twice a month for a few
twice a
years.
month?
Yeah, so I'm really good at sleeping on planes now, but it was incredible experience. Like, got to really see how the world works in the dirtiest places. Um, got a lot of fun deals done. We had 9 offices internationally and kind of ran all that. So super fun, amazing experience. So we did that one. And then immediately right after, started a company called Known, which is in
Hmm.
the same vein, but slightly different. I think Titus was more, we were going to build brands and then sell them into the industrial world.
Okay.
Known was more of a software first play, supply chain management play, which was, we use satellite imagery um, to think like Domino's Pizza Tracker,
Hmm.
but for international business. So
Wow.
similar to what a Flexport does, but we would actually control the product flow from manufacturing to the field. And so, got on with some great customers on the industrial side, fire suppression energy, kind of all over the U.S. And built a team there today, known as 6 offices, kind of all over, and is moving the majority of the upstream infrastructure for some of the larger oil and gas players in the U.S.
Wow.
And started that with some other SMU football guys, and got that off the
Incredible.
ground, and then they PE firm kind of stepped into that a couple of years ago. So.
Incredible. So in those, call it 6 to 8 years post PE shop where you're kind of going off on your own, what would you say your kind of value add skill set was? Was it idea creation and seeing something that the market needed? Was it your ability to build teams, kind of a little bit of the glue guy together? Was it the fundraising? Where did you see that you had knew you were good, really good at this, and there was opportunity?
Yeah, like building teams and all that stuff, I think that comes with experience, and I
Hmm.
just didn't have that. I do
Yep.
think that's something you get from a good corporate kind of background and
Hmm.
setting and seeing that. So I think that's something that it took me a long time to figure out. Uh, my thing was, I do think I've been able to come up with some pretty good ideas so far.
Hmm.
Um, but really it's working super hard. I do think
Yeah.
SMU athletics taught me how to do that. I think, I don't know what it is now, but when I was there at SMU, I mean, we were showing up at 5 a.m. and practicing and getting treatment or working out and then
Right.
practicing and then doing film. And so still to this day, we get here at 6 a.m.
Hmm.
and crank that out and work really hard. And so I think that's kind of been the theme the whole time.
Right.
And it's easy. I think it's easy to work hard when it's for yourself. And I think in every company that we've kind of been a part of, at least known and Yendo now, everyone has ownership in the
Yep.
company. So everybody benefits from the upside. And so it's much easier to all swim in the same direction when you're going for the same thing.
Yeah. No, that's well said. And if you have the confidence that you can outwork and do two two trips a month to Asia and not complain, there's nothing you can't do. But it sounds like you're building a portfolio and expertise in supply chain, international kind of equipment, and that kind of space where you're building context. How does Yendo come into all this, and tell us that origin story and maybe where that idea came from?
Yeah, complete flip from supply chain to credit cards, but
Yeah.
um, there is kind of a connection. So at Titus, we were growing very quickly, too quickly for kind of the infrastructure that we had and the suppliers we worked with. And so we ended up, you know, working with a lot of our suppliers overseas on helping them kind of scale up with us. So think, hey, supplier A, we ordered 5 million from you this year. We need 20 million next year. Well, it's kind of hard to scale up a steel mill in that fashion. So we would help arrange or set up kind of unique financing for them that was asset based. They couldn't get loans in far North
Hmm.
India or Thailand or something
Yeah.
like that. And so we would kind of come up with like asset based underwriting that would
Mm.
allow them to access financing either through us or a partner. And so and it works super well. And so we kind of said, hey, like where else we can make a whole business out of this?
Yeah.
Where else can we apply this thesis? And for Yendo, we just started studying and studying and studying. And at first really dove into like payday loans and title loans, like really bad kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but eventually landed on the whole thesis that there's 65 million people in the US that can't
Hmm.
get more than $300 in credit from
Wow.
like a bank. Um, and so we started looking at, okay, well, if the banks aren't serving them, they're obviously borrowing money. Like, how do they do it?
Yeah.
And what we found was as you start to go below 620 FICO, it's like where mortgages stop and all that,
Hmm.
the banks go away. Like, banks won't serve them anymore. Capital One can't make it work. So no one else really can. So, now they have turned to all these non bank lenders. And when you start to go down the FICO bands, you start to see a big divergence between underlying risk and price to the
Hmm.
consumer. So somebody with a 450 FICO is not that different from a risk perspective than a 600 FICO,
Okay.
but their cost to borrow, for 600 FICO person, maybe 35, 36%. For a
Yeah.
400 person, it's 500%.
Wow.
And so we thought, hey, that doesn't really make sense, and did a lot of work around that and ended up finding that all of that price divergence and spread is caused by origination costs and cost to
Hmm.
originate, cost to serve the customer relative to their value to the lender. And so, like title loans, for example, spend 70% of their revenue on brick and mortar and people. Um, and then even some of the larger consumer lenders that are doing 10, 20 billion a year in loans, they're spending $400 or $500 just to like originate a loan on the
Yeah.
phone with paperwork. And so when you're spending that much, you either have to charge an arm and a leg or do asset backed
Hmm.
or, only lend to certain people a lot of money. And so we said, hey, well, if we can break apart the cost to originate these credit products, we can really change consumer lending for a lot of people. And kind of wanted to lean on the same thesis we did overseas, which was asset backed. And we found that these 65 million people, they owned $1.1 trillion in vehicle equity, and most of them had no auto loans. They just owned the car. And so, long story short, we spent 2.5 years and built a credit card. Got super lucky and met the guy that built the Apple Card. And so kind of taught us how to build the card from scratch and then built a system that allows us to underwrite, evaluate, and place a lien on a vehicle or a home now um, in minutes. And so where it used to cost, other big lenders,
Yeah.
$500 to originate these types of loans, we can do it for $10, $20 in 5 minutes. And
Oh my
so
gosh.
when your cost to originate is super low, you can offer Amex Platinum or Chase Sapphire rates and credit limits that are 800% higher than the unsecured guys for people that typically get nothing. So that's what we launched, and we've saved people about 150 million bucks in interest and fees compared to what they had before over the last few years, and have been growing pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, congrats on the success. And it's always nice to talk to someone whose entrepreneurial endeavors are helping people too, right? So that's incredible. And so you have this idea, and you mentioned like 2.5 years of development and kind of research. Are you guys non-revenue at that point? You're building out this concept, talking to investors. Sounds like the research kind of explained its market value and value add right there. How was that kind of runway? And then when did you guys go live with the credit card?
Yeah, so we started it the company officially was launched in end of Q1 of 21. We'd been kind of
Mhm.
noodling around with it for a while, doing research in the background. Um, but it was 2021, so the funding market was pretty good.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
we were able to raise money in July of 21, um, and was able to give us a few years of runway. And we launched the
And was that through
product like
your network of SMU folks, past companies? That didn't seem like that was too big of an issue?
no, it was all Silicon Valley. The only Dallas based investor is Mark Cuban's investor.
Okay,
But it was I actually got connected to one Silicon Valley VC through someone I went to school with
cool.
at SMU, and then from there it just fanned out pretty quickly,
Yeah.
and we were able to put the money together in a couple of weeks. So it's 2021, super fast,
Yeah, yeah.
and then did that, and we started testing the product in July of 22, but really launched it in October. So it took a long time to build, but I've raised a good amount of capital along the way, and are just growing.
That's
It's been good.
awesome. So approaching what, 4.5, 5 years. Where are you guys at today? Number of employees. You mentioned 150 million in fees that you've helped save people. Um, Kind of where are you today, and what's the plan for the future?
Yeah, so you know, we've got 64 employees now. All across the US. Dallas is the biggest office. Just brought we're moving everyone up from Austin, right now. Um, so that's why there's a bunch of empty desks. But yeah, kind of our vision for the company is, our main goal is we want to fix lending and credit. I think a lot of people try to do these neobanks or consumer finance things, and the value add to the consumer isn't really there, to be honest. I think,
Hmm.
yes, a credit building credit card where someone has to pay $100 is great on paper, but if you've got $50 at the end of each month, you're not going to spend $100 to try to build your credit score.
Right.
It's a hard decision. And so what we said was, let's go fix the biggest problem first, which is, access to credit and cost of credit. And so by leveling that playing field, we're driving a very big wedge into a large consumer group that has been very underserved across a lot of financial products.
Right.
And so we're, we're going to be building bank accounts and kind of the larger financial service piece off of that.
Amazing.
So that's where we're going. We've got, you know, customers all over the country. Uh, we're we receive thousands of applications every day, and we're growing faster and faster and faster.
And you mentioned it once was automobiles, homes. Now you're using. Is there another? Does that continue to expand, or are those two kind of the main bellwether items that help?
Yeah, yeah. I think we'll probably stay in this kind of asset suite. I think again we are focused on who are the people that need this the most. What do they own? It's cars first, then
Mhm.
homes. Um, we'll do unsecured eventually. And kind of I won't say there's nothing else we won't do. We've looked a lot at semi trucks for businesses
Yeah.
and even like farm equipment. I mean, we've looked now that we have the tech built to
Yeah.
do it. We've patented kind of the whole system. So uh, we'll always explore new things, but I think we're pretty steadfast on how do we help the most people. And I think it's staying on with those asset classes from a credit side and then expanding from there into banking and savings and investing and stuff like that.
Incredible. I mean, incredible journey in such a short career so far. So excited to really see where you take this. We touched on this a little bit before you jumped on. Given all you've done to this point and your closeness to the Spears Institute, and what is it about SMU that you think helps create entrepreneurs such as yourself that have found success and are innovating new categories and really you know pushing and challenging the status quo to build better and bigger companies?
Yeah, I think one, I will say the school is doing so much more now than even when I was in school. It's wild the programs they now have, and I would encourage everybody at school to like go get involved in all this. The support that they have for entrepreneurship now is pretty incredible. I think it's really hard to find somewhere that does the same. I know it's just getting started, so it's probably not as big out there yet, but they're doing an amazing job. Um, Honestly, it's the people. I think just the network, the people at the school. I think SMU just does it, and being in Dallas in general, like it's probably one of the fastest growing best places for just business in general.
Right.
And I think people really applaud you for doing your own thing, um, which I think is difficult because starting your own thing is hard. Like being a startup is very not fun
Mhm.
for probably 90% of the time.
Right.
And there's just an amazing network of people that have done it before across a bunch of different industries. And they are really involved and active in SMU. And so having that network, but then just SMU in general, them just opening you up to kind of that mindset early uh, has been awesome. I mean, I've got a ton of friends from high school and other places that I went to different great schools.
Uh-huh.
They just think differently.
Yep.
And so I think that has been, and I had no idea SMU was like that coming here, but that's been, it's been awesome.
Well, yeah, well said. I think it's just so many factors that come into it. It's hard to put into words, but those who've been a part of it can see it firsthand, right? From the community that you went to school with to the way the alumni open their doors and the way others, when they hear about you, they want to help out the best they can. So, Jordan, you're a perfect example of that. Thanks for making time to share your story and inspire the next generation. And we look forward to catching up soon and seeing where the next few years take you and Yendo. And can't wait to watch that journey. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you soon. Pony up. Thank you to our incredible sponsors, Security National Bank, Hilltop Property Tax, Mignon Steakhouse, Sound of a Rose Podcast, and the SMU's Cox School of Business for making this all possible.